to the February 10th meeting of the Design Review Panel. My name is John Demena. I'm chairman of the panel. Just want to confirm board member attendance. I see we have Ms. Bedwell, Mr.
Yes,
Khan, and Mr. Anderson at this point, and myself. So we have a quorum. With that, a little bit of housekeeping. We need to review the minutes from our last meeting, which was on January 13th. Are there any corrections or additions to the meeting minutes by our panel members? Okay, if no comments, would someone like to make a motion to approve?
This is Cecily Bedwell. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from last month's meeting.
Okay, can we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed from the panel? Okay, with that, I'd also like to introduce, I see we have the Director of Planning, Mr. Steve Lafferty's joining us this evening. Welcome, Steve.
Thank you, John, neighbor. Don, good to see you again. Thank you very much for that acknowledgement, John. I've been on board for about a month now, and since the DRP is such an important part of what the planning department is doing, I just wanted to pop in tonight and say hello to everybody and thank you very much for your service as volunteers. Obviously, without your efforts, our job couldn't get done. So thanks, John, and appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Great. For those people who have not attended our meetings in the past, the Design Review Panel was established to encourage design excellence and acts as a consulting and advisory capacity to the agencies involved in the process of reviewing development plans. The objectives of the DRP assessment include spatial, visual, functional relationships to the topographic characteristics, the natural and built features of the site, as well as surrounding features to the site. In carrying out its duties, the DRP utilizes the guidelines, plans, and architectural principles in the comprehensive manuals of development policy and/or master plans, as well as other guidelines and regulations adopted into law. Certain areas of the county were designated by the county council to require review by the DRP. The panel will provide a technical review of the proposed project. Issues relative to zoning, setback relief, environmental and stormwater management, and traffic do not fall under the purview of the DRP and are regulated through the appropriate agencies responsible for those aspects of the development plan review process. The panel consists of 9 members, as well as, where appropriate, a residential reviewer, as we have tonight. All are professionals with practical knowledge in matters of the design. And for the purpose of making recommendations on a particular project, 3 members shall constitute a quorum. The attendance and comments of each member shall be recorded in the minutes, which shall be an open record and available along with all documents submitted to the panel for inspection and copying by the public. There will be opportunity for the community to offer comments and suggestions at the conclusion of the applicant's presentation. These comments will also be included in the written record of the meeting. When a speaker is called upon to speak, please keep your comments focused on the design perspectives within your allotted 2 minutes of time. If you are speaking on behalf of a community group, you will get 5 minutes. For the purpose of these online meetings, you can use the online chat feature to let the county know that you want to make a brief conversation. With that, I also want to acknowledge, I see Ms. Sauce, who's also a member of the panel, has joined us since the opening remarks. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to the architect for the project at 904 Applewood Lane.
Hello, Peter Radcliffe, architect, principal of Radcliffe Architects.
I'm here to present 904, a proposal for a new home on 904 Applewood Lane, as we've been presented, for Mr. and Mrs. Andy Mest. Mr. and Mrs. Mest are moving into Baltimore, and they've purchased a lot, and they would like to build this house. We've designed it collaboratively. It's a traditional colonial-inspired style home. They're from the South, and they really would like to pursue this style home. We think it's well suited for this community and this particular neighborhood. And today we're going to walk through the design elements and the site presentation, its placement on the site, and to show you how they, we've done lots of study. In fact, we've studied the previous presentations to the DRP for other homes that were proposed for this lot. So we have a lot of background that we've studied and very good surveys of the site and the grades, and we're very familiar with it. And we've also spoken to all the neighbors. Mr. and Mrs. Mest have reached out to all of them very thoroughly. So it's been quite a, in my experience, the most collaborative process I've seen for a DRP presentation in terms of being collaborative with the neighborhood. The first sheet shows a front elevation of the proposed home. It's a traditional two-story facade with a natural field stone in the center portion, the center massing, and 2 equal wings. Very symmetrical home with a very simple front porch and with an elevated planter in front of it. We feel that the scale and the proportions of the home with heavy trim is very keeping with the style that we're trying to accomplish. Very fine materials are proposed and fine windows and detailing throughout. And I'm going to proceed through this process. I think we're going to go to the next sheet and we're going to show you the proposed site plan, I believe. This is the context of the neighborhood and showing the position of the house on 904 Applewood. You can see it identified there in the circle in the center. I think that's generally feeling where Applewood, and then it meets up to Pratt. Next sheet, please. These are views of the site again, looking down Applewood, the top center, looking up Applewood toward Pratt. The site is on the right, the existing conditions. The image to your right also is again looking up the same direction, but more closely specific to the corner of the property line at 904 Applewood. The lower left is looking up into the site, and the bottom right is looking down Applewood with the site to our left. The next sheet, please. These are pictures of the current site in its current condition. The top left is looking east up toward Pratt. There's a neighbored house, I believe it's 902 just left. And then the center portion, center top image is looking onto the site from the back of the site, looking down towards, I guess that would be the north, and to the right is east, getting a feel for the depth of the site and the screening on the right side. The top right is looking back into the site, up through the site towards the south, and you can see a swale in the distance. Another visual on the bottom left is looking, I believe that's also looking south up the site. Maybe it's, I'm sorry, looking from the south down north, down the site. And then another image looking north in the center bottom, and then to the right also looking north down the site. Next sheet, please. This is showing the bottom right is lot 9. The center right is the 904 lot. And then the top right is the just west of this site. Both of these neighbors have been collaborated with considerably with the Mests. This is your existing condition, and understanding this lot is actually made up of three lots. So we had particular attention having to be made to zoning and adhering to all the zoning requirements and the setbacks for the individual lots. Proceeding forward, please, next sheet. This is the proposed footprint of the house. It's just around 4,300, I think. I'll get to the specific dimensions or square footages of the footprint and patio. You'll see we have a driveway to the front, to the north side, and we have a sweeping 2-entrance drive to a front entry, and then a drive along on the east side back to a detached garage in the rear yard, which gets very close to the existing swale. In red, if we were to zoom in, but I don't know if you need to, the red represents the variety of trees that are planned to be removed. And then the smaller circles in black are all the trees that are remaining. Again, it's been thoroughly discussed with both the eastern and western neighbor with the masts in advance of this meeting. I think it's hard to get into the details of the image I have to show you the grades. I'd have to zoom in. Marta, could you zoom in more? What we could do is come back to this. I'll go through an overview of the whole project. I think sometimes I've been asked to move a little more rapidly through this. I have 15 minutes to present. But if you see here, the front of the house, the main house elevation is at 426, and the grades out front, I still can't see them perfectly. I've got another image I can refer to. Hold on a second. The house being at 426, the front entry porch steps, the bottom of the steps is 422, and the driveway's around 421, and that drops down to the street on the east side at 421, and on the west side, the very bottom, it drops down to about 416. So we're being very sensitive about the grades and really trying not to have a heavy impact on the grades on the site. Next sheet, please. This image here is our proposed landscape plan. Again, Marta, you might want to zoom in. For my sake, I can't see it very well. I think as you see forward, we'll show you some more images, but the idea is the sweeping driveway to pull in and pull out and park in front of the house. We don't have additional parking up front. We're trying to make the driveway wide enough so 2 cars could pass. And we step up to the house. It's an elevated house so that the rear of the house grade walks out before the upper tier in the rear. And it really just is a balance of how to work with the grades of the site and the grades of the street. And it really just, I think we thought thoroughly through it. We're not impacting the grades that would require the screening along both the east and west side. And again, all the trees that are planned to be removed and planned to stay, and the fencing, and a number of issues have been discussed with the neighbors. So it's been a very collaborative process. And everybody seems so far from all our comments have been very supportive of everything. And Mr. Nest is, I believe, on the call, and he later might address that, I think, when we move to questions, if you have concerns or questions about what has been communicated with the neighbors. I think the next sheet would, we can come back to this. Why don't we keep moving? This is the front elevation of the house. Again, just a view that you saw earlier. Again, a fieldstone house, inspired by a traditional colonial style home. In the clapboard finishes, we'll show you the proposed finishes on the last sheet of the presentation, just more specifically. But again, we paid great attention to trying to improve the detail, to really bring the detailing of a classic colonial style home. So it's really well finished and well furnished in terms of trying to meet the designs and the style of that period. Next sheet, please. So this is a good example. The front of the house is tall, 2-story, but the back 3/4 of the house is all 1-story. You know, the wishes of the Mests is that the second floor be more modest and the first floor be more accommodating, and they have 2 bedrooms on the first floor and then 3 bedrooms on the second floor for their kids. And you can see a section through the site. So what I think is appropriate for the site is it's tall in the front with a 2-story, but as it proceeds back, and the impact on the east and west neighbors is rather modest with a 1-story. And I think that's been something that's been well received. And fortunately, it worked well for how we had planned the house. The top section being the section front to back, north to south. The bottom section being a transverse section through the front of the home, through the center body of the 2-story of the house. And again, the upper section shows you the contours of the site and the positioning of the detached garage in the rear yard. We move to the next image, please. So this is the front elevation on the top right, and then the right elevation on the bottom. Again, showing the 2-story with the 2 wings toward the north, and moving southerly, you'll see the 1-story wing that projects back along the west side. And there's a large sun porch all on the back. Again, that's a big part of the living of the Mest, interest in having a big open sunny porch for their house. We feel, again, this just, I think, exemplifies the nature of the lower profile of the home, running north to south with less impact on the viewscape of the neighbors, both east and west. Next sheet, please. And rear elevation is the top, where we are a left gable and a right gable sandwiches the center long lower pitch roof that provides the extension and the depth of the 1 story of the home with the 2-story home towards the front. And we feel that the closed gables and the styling of the siding and the Grand Manor proposed asphalt shingle decorative architectural roof. All in all, we think we're very proud of the look of the home, and we think it's well suited to the neighborhood again. Next sheet, please. This is a basement plan. There's some rec area planned and a walkout planned on the lower side of the west side, and just basic use and storage on the lower level. Next sheet, please. This is the first floor plan. To the right, you'll see the entry steps up to the covered porch, entry into a foyer. There's a master suite to the right. There's a laundry room to the right, and then a master suite in the back right, and then proceeds back left to the sunroom. As you go through the foyer into the center of the home, you have an open center, very open plan with a kitchen, dining table, and living room. We have a study in the front left of the foyer, and then the second bedroom on the left side, on the east side of the house, and then a little mudroom entry on the back near the detached garage, and then a patio in the center left of the home. And that's your first floor. Next sheet, please. This exemplifies again the forward 2-story section with 3 bedrooms and 3 baths to accommodate their children. And then you get a feel for how the 1-story vaulted areas on the wing over the master suite and the shed roof in the center and the other net sandwiching gable on the other side. Next sheet, please. This is a view of the detached garage. The top right is a view as you're driving up the driveway along the east side of the house. You'll see a gable-faced front of the garage, two-door garage. No finished space on the upper level is planned, and you can see center lower area is the view from the east side, how it's buried into the hill, working with the grades. So there's a retaining wall on the east side, as well as the south side, as well as a little bit on the west side, retaining the earth and allowing the garage to set nicely into the grades, the natural grades of the site, without impacting any grades leaving the site. Next sheet, please. These are the materials proposed. We have a hardy plank clapboard center, and the upper left is a natural fieldstone Ramon brown, which is very common Butler style looking stone that we have selected for the house. To the top right is a heavy architectural asphalt shingle roof proposed, a Grand Manor style. Lower left is just samplings again of features and finishes of the home with traditional lanterns, traditional real shutters and shutter dogs and hardware, attractive floodlights as needed for security. And again, an example bottom right is of a sample of a Coachman style paneled garage door. The coloring on that image is not what's proposed. It's proposed to be a white door. Next sheet, please. Again, this is here just a list of the neighbors that we've communicated to and the community and panel information. Next sheet, please. Okay, I think I moved pretty quickly through that. Certainly I could cover a lot more. Maybe it's best to leave it to you all to ask questions and talk to us about anything you have in mind, and I'd be happy to try to provide answers to all of them.
Okay, Peter, thank you very much for a well-organized and comprehensive presentation. Marta, do we have any members of the public signed up to speak?
No, John, I don't see anyone. And Brad, Emery, do we have anyone who submitted questions via chat window?
No, Martha, there's no one leave the message on the chat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Well, with that, since this is a residential project, we'll go with our residential reviewer, Fran Anderson, first. Fran, you've got the floor.
There we go. Sorry, I had to unmute myself. Thanks, Sean. Peter, just a couple of quick questions. And I think the house is lovely. I think you did a nice job with the architecture. My initial reaction to it was, wow, the mass and the height of it right there at the front of the property or near the front of the property is really not that well in keeping with the other homes on the street. When you and I think I might have mentioned this at your last presentation, and having a few more pictures of the adjacent neighbors' homes to provide context would be helpful. I've been on the street enough, and yes, this is, I think, the fourth time I've seen this property come before the DRP. So hit on it a little bit. Just talk about the decision to kind of create that mass, to fill that front up, and not to sort of go back on the lot again. And I know there's some grade changes back there. Can you just kind of just touch on that one more time for me to explain the logic there? And if any of the neighbors, in particular at 902, is immediately adjacent to a single-story house, had any comments about the height of the structure or sort of the mass at the front of the property?
Sure, happy to. So as you can see on the screen right now, there's a site plan showing the neighbors' houses. And we feel that the positioning of the home towards the street is trying to, one, to preserve a lot of the rear yard plus septic in the way in the rear yard and higher grade lift in the rear yard that is rather challenging to deal with other than how we're doing it. Secondly, a primary design sort of discussion that we've had was trying to not have the house set way back behind the facades of the other homes. The house to the west is a two-story house. The house to the east is, yes, definitely a one-story style house. Like I said before, Mr. Mest has gone to great lengths to communicate to every neighbor, not only the east and west most specifically, but throughout. He's reached out and had many conversations with many of the neighbors, and has been met with a lot of support. I mean, as you said, they've all been through quite a bit. The positioning of the home, again, like I said, is we feel that it's somewhat in keeping in the positioning of the other homes on either side of it. The two-story nature really is a sort of really a personal preference of the Mests. They really like a two-story facade. They very much like this style home. They personally feel, and I do too, that it fits quite well in the overall neighborhood. I think that there are other larger homes up on Pratt as well in terms of height. And I understand and respect your concerns for, maybe possibly marrying somewhere in between the two-story house on the west and a one-story house on the east. But it is a rather complex process to try to influence someone's personal interest in a two-story facade versus, trying from our architectural perspective what might be what we would feel personally to be a better sort of transitional process from one larger style home on the west to a shorter style home on the east. So again, I think what we did was, while addressing the Mest's interest, personal interest of this facade and this look that they love so much, we've also then dropped it down to a much lower profile to have much less impact on the neighbors' viewscapes, both in the east and the west particularly. And on the east side, particular, well, again, a lot of conversations were had with that. Behind that house, lot 9 on the east, is a pool near the two-car garage. And again, that pool and that positioning of our house allows for very little impact on their viewscape in their backyard, because the two-story facade is positioned towards the front, and the one-story facades are very much positioned nicely against the neighboring houses, so it has very little impact on their viewscape. So in order to get the second story, we felt it was appropriate to have that on the front, not only from the look and facade personally, but also from just a practical and considerate approach. Anyway, that's my initial reaction.
Yeah, no, that's good. And I know that the greater neighborhood is very different, not very different, but has a lot of different style homes that aren't immediately seen in this on Applewood. And this home is not unlike the first home that I guess it was Mr. Adams had presented to us, where it was similar in its design. And the thing that I like is you moved in that design. I think the garage was actually in the front of the home, and I like the fact that you were able to move it back and hide a bit of it under in that grade change in the back there. I think that's a good, as much as it adds, you know, a little bit of additional, you know, impervious surface to the site. I think it's a better spot for it. So I appreciate what you did there as well. Yeah, and I again, I'm just trying to think about the context of the neighborhood and sort of marry the wants of the individual to the general, you know, desires of the neighborhood, and keep scale and appropriate where appropriate. So that's really the only questions I really strongly had. The trees that you're taking down, and it sounds like you've talked to everybody. Have the neighbors gotten to see the landscape plan of what you're putting back? And I'm talking in particular along the wall there. It looks like you're extending, and you've got some shorter, some 4-foot shrubs. I think you're going to plant there. Have they seen those as well to kind of get a sense of the scale of those as screening?
Yes, absolutely. Been thoroughly discussed with both the east and west neighbor. For sure, Mr. Nest has had a lot of conversation with the east and west neighbor, and I know they've had a lot of concerns in the past. So again, we knew about those concerns. We've read about some of the minutes. So Mr. Nest has taken great lengths to really collaborate with them, and I can very confidently tell you, and Mr. Nest can speak up if he'd like, but you know, he's been through it all. In fact, there's some discussions about wanting some more taken down, but right now we're trying to limit it to what's necessary for the production and positioning of this home. And I think there's a lot of future about, you know, collaborative efforts with both neighbors to make sure that we continue to, you know, respect each other. And obviously the house to the west is very close to the property line. So,
Yeah.
You know, I think that, you know, if we studied all the other versions and we really did feel that not only do we want the detached garage in the rear, we felt it's a much better solution for everybody's concerned. So again, it's a fairly, you know, not very wide lot. So we were very limited to the length of the house. And so that's why it has such depth to it. But anyway, I think that we really did consider all that you mentioned. And I totally respect, obviously, what you're saying. And this is a result of a lot of study and a lot of collaboration with the owner and the neighbors. And we feel this is really putting our best foot forward.
Okay. Great. Well, that's all I have. I'll let everybody else sort of jump in here. I appreciate it.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Fran. Ms. Bedwell.
Thank you and good evening. Thank you for the presentation. I was just looking on Google Earth to see the other homes, and I think I have it. There was a kind of vertically sided house that used to exist on the lot. Is that correct?
Opposite on the north side?
It was removed from the lot. It was demolished.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, the former home was taken down by Mr. Adams in 2016.
Right. I'm
That's Mr. Mest speaking. He just spoke up.
thank you. Yeah, so sorry. I just wanted to make sure I was looking at the correct lot. Moving down afterwards.
It depends what part of Google Earth or Google Maps you're looking at. Like you have to proceed down. And I was talking to BG&E the other day, and they were like, "Do you see that blue car there?" And I'm like, "No." And I panned down, and he was like, "Oh, I see 3 cars, and I see a house now." So yes, right. I do.
Yeah. Very good. Okay. Well, thank you for, yeah, and I realize that the house has been demolished. I just want to make sure I'm in the correct to see the neighboring homes that we were asking to see photos of. So I just have 3 quick questions on the architecture details. And I love the use of the materials you have noted. I'm wondering, is there a sill stone, a capstone above the water table?
Right now, we have planned to have a bluestone cap on the perimeter landscape wall, as well as a bluestone surface on the front porch.
Okay, and so sorry, on the building wall itself as well as the porch, or just the landscape wall?
The building wall is just a facade of fieldstone. I'm not sure. The base of the foundation right now is called for a stamped formed concrete that's going to be colored in the color of the mortar of the stone, so it blends nicely with the mortar of the stone as well as the siding color of the house, providing some texture, but also not the expense of doing stone exposed throughout the entire perimeter of the home.
Oh, okay. So sorry, when I look at your elevations, No, not the rendered elevations, but the CAD drawings, it almost looks like a brick. And then
It's just a,
Concrete typically is like a brick pattern, but it doesn't have any color. It just has a texture, and then we would provide color to it with a masonry wash. That would be a warm, light tan color, similar to the mortar color of the stonework.
okay.
And of course, you have base plantings and other things that blend it in.
Yeah, it's not going to show up much. And then the side of the facade is, it's cool maybe because I think in the right side elevation, there's no pattern on the back portion underneath the sunroom. So I thought that might have just been concrete and the other was brick. Okay.
Yeah, the back porch will have the bluestone cap. I think we just mistakenly forgot to texture and pattern that on our CAD drawings.
Okay.
But that would have the same foundation, exposed foundation detailing.
And am I reading it? Are you proposing white clapboard siding with white shutters? And what was the rationale? Typically, I'd see white clapboard siding with, say, a darker neutral shutter.
Mr. Ness might speak up to that. I think they had an inspirational home that this is influenced by that they love very much with the white shutters. So it's we backed away from the shutters on the stonework and provided the shutters on the house itself.
Yeah, I mean,
go ahead, Andy.
No, my wife has kind of picked this. It's a kind of a beigey kind of cream, very much a mortar color. So the I would say the shutters almost match the mortar color, which matches the siding, which matches the stamped brick pattern on the foundation. Very much earth tones. So white might be a slight overgeneralization, as it is in her photos, really a beigey kind of mortar color, kind of tan.
White, as noted.
Yeah, it will not be white. I can tell you that. My wife is very fixated on the color that she picked. So we could submit the photo because she's been very stern with Peter in terms of. You remember the photo I showed you?
Yes. Okay. Well, I think that's a good call because I was concerned about the white on white. But I think having that, more earth, let's see, bending towards tan beige is probably a better. Have the white shutters on top of that. I think it would be nice. Otherwise, you can almost lose the shutters in it.
Yeah.
Those were really the only questions I had. So otherwise, I think all the details look great. Thank you.
Thank you, Cecily. Don Kahn.
Yes, I had a couple questions. I guess with the site plan, apparently, if you go back to that, which shows the two neighbor buildings, just curious about the trade-off between the closeness to the house to the west versus the distance to the house to the east, and whether you considered actually flipping all this to the other side so that there was more distance. It seems unfortunate that the nice sun porch is actually so close to that neighbor's house.
Mm-hmm. Well, a couple of reasons. One, the higher entry to the home of the grade at the street is very important to enter the site at that level, and the slope also slopes to the west. So having the driveway on the east side practically makes a lot of sense. And then having, the garage on the side of the driveway obviously is very sensible. Having it lower on the west side would create a lot of challenges. And then the implication or the influence on the neighbor to the east, coming to the west, which is much closer to the property, would have probably even a greater impact. So we really feel the logic led us this way, and it's been well received by both neighbors.
It seems, as Fran said, that moving it even where it is, moving it back some would give it a little more freedom on the back of the sun porch. But that's, something that hopefully you considered. The other thing, more directly, was that you did not discuss the windows themselves that I saw, or the windowsills or the headers. Can you tell us what that is?
Sure. It's a cast stone header and a cast stone sill with an SPL simulated divided insulated fully simulated divided light. Right now we're considering multiple different manufacturers from LePage to Marvin to Pella, but they're all very traditional and fully simulated divided light windows.
And what are you doing at the sill and the head?
Cast stone. It's a 6-inch deep tall header and a 3-inch sill, sloping sill, with about a 1/2 inch to 1 inch overlap of the stonework.
Okay, because we should be sure that our records indicate that, since I didn't see that on the drawings.
Went into the drawings really closely in all the architectural drawings. It's called out quite thoroughly.
Okay. And then the last thought is,
sorry, Don, can I jump in on your comment or question and just ask what the siding sills are?
The siding sills are a sill and an apron. So you have a projected sill with an apron underneath with an exaggerated upper head with a, somewhat of a crown style cap to the head. And then the shutters overlap the side trim, which is 4.5 inch trim. All of it's synthetic AZEK solid cellular PVC and a hardy plank siding.
and then the last comment is just, I would encourage you to make sure that the width of the shutters is equivalent to proportionally to the windows themselves. I think it looks very close. And I would encourage you to make sure that works out that way. I think it really helps the proportion of those windows when you do that.
I would agree.
But otherwise, I think it has been worked out very well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Donald. Ms. Rada?
Hello. So I didn't realize that this project has already been presented before to the panel. Is that correct?
Actually, the prior presentations were from different owners.
I see. Okay.
So this is the first time we're seeing this particular design. But as was referenced, it's been before the panel. What did you say, Fran? 4 or 5 times?
4 or 5 times. Okay. Because some of the comments that I had, I feel like they've already been addressed in the previous renditions. But like the proportion, how big the mass seems compared to the other houses in the neighborhood. But seems that it's already been addressed a few times with the other versions. But that was just one of my comments. The other thought that I had, which I think panelist Khan addressed, was the location of the garage. No, I think it was Fran actually. I have to say I'm a little bit concerned by how many trees are going down in the back, especially considering the patio. You would think that would require a little bit cozier atmosphere than what is laid out right now, just next to the garage and the driveway, with a lot fewer trees and shades based on what you're proposing. So one thing I was perhaps going to suggest was to move the garage, flipping the house so that it will be on the other side, but both of them just have been discussed. And I understood it before John told me that this was based on a previous discussion for the same design, same order. So I'm not sure where that leads us. But the amount of impervious space and the amount of tree cutting in the back does concern me a lot. And I think it does affect the quality of the space, like spatial experience for the patio people when people are occupying it. Just having so much paved space and automobile circulation there, which I don't feel is necessary. I just wonder out loud if it can be configured differently.
Yeah, I'll comment on that just because I've spent significant time with our neighbors. So I forwarded Peter a letter yesterday from Mr. Alexander, who's at 902 Applewood, and he's actually asked us to remove all of the trees along the eastern property line, so significantly more than are there. He's got significant concerns about the impact on his property and the potential of them falling on his house. And previous owner had said, hopefully I die before I have to remove those trees, and they're still there today. So I've now met with Mr. Alexander 4 times, and I've met with the Habermans for 4 meetings, and I've met with Mr. Haberman an additional time for over 10 hours now, and we've talked significantly, both of them, about the property lines which they are impacted by, and so they're very, very happy that where the home is sitting, and not it was called before the original version that was the big shed. They're happy with the proportion and the house stepping down. So I couldn't have asked any more for input from them. So I'm really glad that we've been able to spend time with the neighbors and really get their input. I've actually spent the whole week at the property meeting with the neighbors. I flew up from South Carolina on a Monday, and so we've spent about 25 hours at the property this week consulting with them, and I sent out a lengthy email to them, and I've had all of the neighbors reach back out to us and really welcome us to the neighborhood, and thanks for the thoughtful design.
Okay, that's good background. That's all, and the material for the pavement for the driveway, is that just concrete? Has
It's
it
macadam.
making a
It's
little
called
bit-
out as macadam.
Sorry?
It's called out as macadam.
Okay, got it.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. Ms. Sauce?
Yes, thank you for the presentation. It seems like you've had a lot of communication with the neighbors and put a lot of thoughtful design together to make it fit and to appease the neighbors with the tree issues. I was trying to figure out if there were any specimen trees, just looking at the existing conditions plans. It was a little hard to read with the small numbers and zooming in. I couldn't tell if there were any specimen trees. It looks like mostly hollies and white pines. So that's doubtful, but that was
There isn't.
Okay.
I had an extensive survey done, and I spent about 3 hours today with an arborist on the property.
Okay.
And with both Mr. Haberman and also with Mr. Alexander to the east and the west, trying to help untangle some of the history of the property that they are not happy with either. So they've been very receptive to kind of getting things cleaned up along their properties.
It looks great. I would like to see a little more screening in between the along the property lines a little bit. I see that you have a fence and some arborvitae, but I think to lessen the impact, some additional landscaping would really help. But I think overall it looks great, and it's definitely a very thoughtful design. Thank you.
Thank you. So from my standpoint as chairman, I'll go last. Actually, one of the questions I have been asked by prior members of the panel. I would like to commend the owner and Mr. Mest and Peter. I think this is probably the first time we've had a project as substantial in this in Ruxton where we haven't had any of the neighbors come and speak, which I think only reinforces the fact that the owner has made a considerable effort to have dialogue with their neighbors. Because usually, as we all know, we get all the opposers speaking at these meetings, not the people who are supporting. So With that, Fran, do you want to make a motion? Or do you want somebody else to make a motion?
I could make a motion, but I'm just not sure that there were any comments that people wanted to see adjustments or changes. If anybody had any, if they could quickly remind me, because I don't know that there were other than just general comments.
Fran, I think my only comment after all those questions was just that the siding color be corrected to as envisioned to be that tan beige siding instead of as noted in the presentation, it shows white.
So that's just a correction on the
Correction,
rendering to be, representative of the true color. Okay. Was there anything else? I'm sorry if I missed it. There was a lot of discussion, but not a lot of direction.
I agree with you, Fran.
I just sent Peter that photo, so he'll share that with you all.
Okay. Well, I'll make a motion, John, and if somebody wants to amend it, they can. I would move that the project be approved and noted that the rendering elevation, the rendering should be adjusted to more accurately depict the true color of the siding, and that be submitted just to the staff, planning staff.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll make sure it's done. Sorry.
I'll second that motion. That's Cecily Benwell.
I'm sorry, Cecily, I couldn't hear what you said.
Second the motion.
Okay. Any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? With that, this project has been approved. Thank you all for making your presentation this evening. It was a good presentation, well thought out and thorough. And with that, I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn the meeting. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all very much. This meeting is adjourned. Good luck with this project.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice meeting.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody.
Good evening. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.